Every year we try to look back through the time tunnel and understand what exactly happened where and when, and then we remember that all the big events that happened throughout the year were actually declared and announced, decreed on Rosh Hashanah. They were just executed different days throughout the calendar. But in a year like this, we don't have to explain too much the magnitude of these days. Everything will be decided, big and small. We saw it. At Rosh Hashanah, Tafshin Pei Dalet, a terrible decree was set for Klal Yisrael. And Yom Kippur it was sealed, but it still wasn't executed because there was still Hoshana Rabbah. And then Simchas Torah, this was sent for execution. And everything that passed, all those who died, were wounded, the hostages, the fears, the anxieties were exactly according to what was decreed for each and every one in Klal Yisrael on Rosh Hashanah. When a new Rosh Hashanah comes, there's no chazaka. It's not a continuation of what was before. It's a new year, new prayers, a new world is about to be born. It can change in a second. There's no continuity. So if we already are davening, taking advantage of the davening of Rosh Hashanah to try and better our situation, why waste as if these days to daven that the war will be over, we should have a life of tranquility, no fears. Let's take advantage of these great days to ask Yibbono Shel for the great salvation for Mashiach Tzidkenu. When we say in davening, Lehavi Memsheles Zadon, move the wicked people who have the power. We have to have the simple meaning of these words in mind. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should remove the Satan, as if he is ruling the world now and everything is derech hateva, and then we will be able to see the revelation of Malchus Shamayim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be Melech al Kol Haaretz. After 50 years, Rosh Hashanah Tafshin Pei Dalet, we saw again, just like the Yom Kippur War, when the Simchas Torah, thousands of terrorists came into Eretz Yisrael, nothing was able to stop them. If it wasn't on Simchas Torah, a day of great chesed and rachamim, who knows where it would have stopped? Especially now that we know that they were supposed to have the North, Hezbollah, join them as well, and then who knows where we would have been today. And we cannot forget that we also experienced many miracles. Thousands and thousands of rockets, missiles, on Eretz Yisrael, and barely any damage. Anyone who knows a little about how war is conducted knows that this doesn't make any sense. The miracles are so great that even one who is blind sees it with his eyes. And we must praise and thank Yibbono Shel every minute. Because Baruch Hu should help us to be able to see soon the ultimate salvation, building Beis HaMikdash. We are supposed to tremble when we hear the sound of the shofar. But the time of blowing the shofar is a time of simcha as well. The pasuk says, "B'chatzois v'kol shofar hariu lifnei HaMelech Hashem na'aro simcha uchaf yachad harim yeranenu." It's all about joy. Why? Kiva lishpot es haaretz, because the Kodesh Baruch Hu comes to judge the land. It seems that what bothers us to enter Rosh Hashanah is this little thought that says, we sin throughout the year. Kodesh Baruch Hu doesn't love me anymore. And we're talking about people who are God-fearing individuals. We really want to get close to Yibbono Shel Olam, do tshuva, but Yetzer Hara knows exactly where to attack. If I'm not loved by Yibbono Shel Olam, how exactly am I supposed to do what I'm supposed to do? With tshuva. That's what we think. So it's very difficult to awaken ourselves these days, getting ready. In other words, even though we are maminim bnei maminim, it seems that there's one thing that we don't really believe so much. What is it? To know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us. He is called Adon Aslichois. He loves when people say, I'm sorry. And actually, the more a person sins throughout the year, and now he really wants to do tshuva, he is more beloved to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kodesh Baruch Hu turns to his angels and says, look at this son. Look at my son. Look at my daughter. Look at what situation they're in. And yet he doesn't despair. He doesn't give up hope. He wants to do tshuva. Maybe we find it hard to believe. Maybe we don't want to believe, because this will allow us to avoid the obligation to do tshuva. But the gate is always open. Can always come back to the stretched arms of Ribono Shel Olam, no matter where we are, no matter when. The Metzius is totally different. When the way we are now, up there in Shamayim, they're hungry, they're starving for every little crumb of chizuk coming from a Yiddish heart. When the hearts are weak, everybody trembles from what will happen. We try to wake up. Dafka, because we don't have any koyach, HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks forward to any little kernel of chizuk, any prayer, even if it's not with all the kavana. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows who we are. He knows we are weak. He knows we find it extremely hard to overcome the temptations, the koiches, the forces that try to overcome us. So if once upon a time, in the past, HaKadosh Baruch Hu looked forward from real chizuk, HaKadosh Baruch Hu today is as if so hungry. He'll take anything that we're able to produce. Any little type of advancement brings HaKadosh Baruch Hu, gives him such nachas. And when one knows this, it is easier to be mischazek, to stand facing all the nisyonis, knowing that one little step forward, one little drop of chizuk will be pleasing to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that little crumb we do have the koyach to do. What's the proof to this? HaKadosh Baruch Hu desires us not to be believed. What the Tana Deve Eliyahu writes. Tana Deve Eliyahu is Torah that we learn from Eliyahu Hanavi. If this wasn't written, we wouldn't believe such a thing. But it's there. There's a shepherd, very committed, dedicated to his flock. But there's one thing that he would prefer not to see. And that is the garbage that his sheep produce. The smell is not so pleasant. The scenery is not so nice anymore as well. If we were to ask this shepherd, tell me, do you want your sheep to produce this type of garbage? Or would you rather that the world around will be cleaner? Much more pleasant, no? Of course he would say yes. I'd like to get rid of that, but what can you do? It's part of the business. Says the Tanat Veriyahu, that's not how HaKadosh Baruch Hu works. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is our shepherd. And he loves us so much. Not only does he doesn't like the garbage, he actually is happy with our garbage. If we are still not convinced to do tshuva, to come back to Ribono Shel Olam, let's read what the Tanat Veriyahu Rabbah Perek Aleph writes about Yom Kippur. Just thinking about it will cause your legs to start running on their own. So Kodesh Baruch Hu's stretched arm. The pasuk in Tehillim says, Yamim yutzaru veloy echad bahem. All kinds of days on the calendar. There's 365 days in a solar year. There's 354 in a lunar one. But there is one special one. Veloy echad bahem. Which one is that special day to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Ze Yom HaKippurim leYisrael. That's Yom Kippur. Why? לפי שהייתה שמחה גדולה לפני הקודש ברוך הוא שנתנו באהבה רבה לישראל. הקודש ברוך הוא is so happy that he gave כלל ישראל this day called Yom Kippur. משל ומשל למה הדבר דומה. What is this similar to? מלך בשר ודם שהיו עבדיו ובני ביתו מוציאים את הזבלים ומשליכים אותו כנגד פסח בית המלך. Imagine. People take their garbage and they go to the White House and they throw all their garbage in front of the White House. What would the president do? They would probably be locked up, these people. But the Tana de Veriyahu says, when the king goes out and he sees this garbage, he is extremely happy. This is what Yom Kippurim resembles, says Eliyahu Hanavi. Because the Kodesh Baruch Hu gave it to us with great love. And not only that. בשעה שהוא מוחל לעוונותיהם של ישראל, but the Kodesh Baruch Hu atones כלל ישראל. אין מתעצב בלבבוי. Kodesh Baruch Hu is not sad. אלא שמח שמחה גדולה. He is happy. Just think about it. Somebody owes you $5. And he says, please be moichel me. I don't have $5. You know what? Can you be moichel me? And you say, yeah, sure. And he goes away. You feel good about it, but never gonna see those $5 again. Then maybe you don't think about it too much. But what if it's $500? And this person comes and says, listen, I really don't have. I just don't have. Maybe you can find it in your heart to be moichel me. And you say, yes. Yes, I will. But as soon as he leaves, you say, never gonna see those 500 again. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not like that. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is sameach when he atones for Klal Yisrael, and he says to the mountains, to the hills, he says, come, be happy with me. Bo'u v'simchu imi simcha gedoyla. Shani moichel lahem la'avonoseihem shel Yisrael. It's the time that I atone for the sins of Klal Yisrael. You have to cry when you hear this. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees the mountain of garbage of Klal Yisrael, and he is happy with that garbage. Why is he happy? When a father has a son who has worms in his intestines, it's painful. Oh. It hurts the father not less than it hurts the son. And when the worms finally leave his son, the father wants to see them because he understands the meaning. Now it means my son is clear of these things. They're no longer there. What caused him the pain? That is why HaKadosh Baruch Hu is happy to see our sins that caused us to be distant from him, when they're thrown the threshold of his house. So it comes out, the greater the sins, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is happier when we get rid of them. It's exactly the opposite of what Yetzer Hara tries to convince us, that the greater the sin, we don't stand a chance, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not interested in our tshuva. Chas v'shalom. His sons left their sins and decided to come back. Tshuva shlema. And therefore there is great simcha ba'elyonim, upper worlds, betachtonim, lower worlds, because Hariu la'Hashem kol haaretz, ki va lishpot es haaretz, because judgment day has come. So if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is so happy with our tshuva, that he's happy to be happy with our garbage, how much more so we should be happy and agree to do tshuva with great simcha in our hearts. Listen to the love HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to somebody who leaves his sins behind, turns around, repents, tries to get close to Ribono Shel Olam. This is the time that we can stand and daven the depth of our hearts for the Malchus Hashem that should return to not only to us, to the world entire. The Satan should be removed from the land. All our enemies should be cut off. What's more simple than just taking this mission? B'tmimus halev, to stand, to daven b'simcha v'sason, when we say the words, Uvchen ten pachdecha Hashem Elokeinu al kol ma'asecha, be'imascha al kol ma shebarasa. This year it's really not so hard to have kavanah when we request that. The problem is that we come sometimes to Rosh Hashanah not in a natural way. For some reason, we have all these stickers that we decided to stick to this day, all kinds of character traits that are not written anywhere. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't desire them when we all understand what it means. That's the reason that the feelings that we are supposed to have, that are supposed to accompany during these days, go away. And then we don't have any koyach to do what we're supposed to do. It's clear that after what we have witnessed, this Rosh Hashanah should be different in all areas. But what actually happens? We hear shiurim, at darshanim, they say about all those who died, and they went up there, and this was all decreed on previous Rosh Hashanah, and no one argues. It's 100% true. We don't have to bring sources, it's so clear. But the question is, what do we do with this knowledge? Does it bring us to a better place? To get stronger? If it does, fantastic. But in reality, it usually doesn't. And we don't have to bring proof to that as well. We're not talking about young people who find it very hard to contain these machshavos, but even adults. We had many Rosh Hashanahs, Yetz Hashem, until 120 at least. It's very hard to contain these ideas along with the fear of what happened the last year. This generation is caught up in so many different things. Parnasa, raising children, health issues, family tragedies, there's so many things going on. We need a break, and there isn't. When you come to a person in distress with all these things going on in his life, and we say, oh, be careful, be careful, be careful. Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Hashanah. And he hears the darshan, and what is demanded of him? Doesn't have any koyach. Doesn't have any koyach to do that. So what happens? Month of Elul passes, Judgment Days, and it's even worse than the rest of the year. Almost paralyzed, doing anything positive. Thinking, anyways, I can't fulfill those demands, so what am I worth? What value does my tshuva have? Some of us may be embarrassed to admit that that's what is in their head. Outwardly, want to be viewed as people who are working on themselves, really trying to change, to grow. The stress, the fear of the fear paralyzes us. So let's think, is this really what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants? Our compassionate Father wants the days of judgment to pass in a way that we can't do anything, and if we compare these days to previous ones, 2, 3, 4 years ago, we will find this is in a worse place than we were before. Everybody understands it's not what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. It's so simple. And one who goes in this manner doesn't fulfill the will of his Creator. He does exactly the opposite of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to get stronger in Yemei Hadin, to do tshuva be'ava, be'simcha, to drift away now. You have to climb up on the ladder, getting closer to Ribono Shel Olam. So in yesteryears and in the past, they knew how to have this dynamic balance. In Koichos HaNefesh, to know what Judgment Day really means, and yet to be able to continue with life the right way. But somebody who can't do that just has to be at peace, at ease, to accept in himself the yoke of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's kingdom, besimcha, with great simcha. Is there a greater simcha than accepting the yoke of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, such a great king, who's also our Father, and his arms are just waiting? Come back to me, and I promise nothing bad will happen to you. This is not a different way, a different path that our forefathers used to take. It's the same path. We're just making adjustments. What was suitable for them, what is suitable for us today. Generally, we don't speak too much with kids about Gehenna. There is Gehenna out there, but the kids, the students, won't not be able to understand it. We'll have anxieties. That's not what we want. The emphasis in Chinuch today is about Simcha. Simcha and Avodas Hashem. So even though it's true, everything is true, there is Gehenna, but we need to know how to attract the youth in these times. Will this help their Chinuch? Or Chas v'Shalom? Do the reverse. So in the past, a different generation was about 20 years. And there's adaptation, and every generation is different. But today, every 2-3 years, sometimes even less, the generation switches. The values are different. What was fitting for the previous generation just doesn't work with the new one. And therefore, when a new Rosh Hashanah comes, and we know what the Yetzer Hara is going to try to do, which has nothing to do with Avodas Hashem. If every year Yetzer Hara tries to give us some stress, some sadness, this year, he will prove to us that everything that happened is because of you. You're not worth it. If you were, Midas Hadin wouldn't come on you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, our Father in Shemaim, knows us very well. He knows our Yetzer even better than us. That refers to Yetzer Hara. That knows Yetzer Hara of all the Yetzurim. He will always understand us. He knows what pushes us. He knows how badly we want to change. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't come to a person and says, why did you sin? The claim is, why aren't you coming back to me? When Adam HaRishon sinned, HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't ask him, why did you sin? HaKadosh Baruch Hu turned to man and he says to them, Ayeka, where are you? Why are you running away? Yes, it's okay, you sinned. But come back to me, let's talk about it. We'll be able to continue going forward from here. One who will think about it in this way won't be able not to be happy in Rosh Hashanah. Even without understanding the depth of tshuva, what it really means, we understand that the mere fact that we are days that tshuva is easier, more acceptable. That should bring us to great simcha. The simcha of David HaMelech that says, Kirvas Eloikim, closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, li tov, is good for me. So simple. Take advantage of these great days to daven, to speak with Ribono Shel Olam that will fight for us, that will allow us to see many more soldiers fighting for Ribono Shel Olam. Mekadesh Shem Shamayim. The soldiers that sit in the yeshivas and learn, the soldiers that do chesed, the soldiers do everything that a Yid is supposed to do. We are Kodesh Baruch Hu's soldiers. This mission to daven is perfect for us. Remember, even one child saying one chapter of Tehillim, one tear can change it all. This is what kept us going throughout all the generations. To try to awaken ourselves, to daven with tears. You don't have to be a Bal Madrega. Today it's so easy to have kavana when we say, Eish Merabah Mevoyach. It's not a shame to cry. To plead for Kodesh Baruch Hu's kingdom of Malchus Shamayim. Let's take advantage of these special days. Out of simcha, ahava to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Let's not let the Yetzer Hara confuse us and put us in all kinds of stress. David, kol harisha kula ke'ashan tichle. Remove the wicked powers. Isavim memsheles zadon min haaretz. The main focus should be to do it b'menucha, b'simcha. Only if you do it that way, we will accomplish and get great results, taking advantage of these special days with simcha, menucha sadas, Yishuv Adas. In Mirz Hashem, we should be able to pray. Daven to Ribono Shel Olam. We want to see you. Ve'haya Hashem lemelech al kol haaretz. Bayom hahu yeh Hashem echad. U'shmo echad.